Of the greatest wisdoms of any type of calamity, especially a calamity that is as universal as what is happening now, that all of mankind is plagued by it. One of the greatest wisdoms is that during these times, people rediscover their faith. People turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People turn to faith and to religion. Even those that are not that religious, they generally become religious. Even those that might not worship Allah very regularly, at times of calamity, at times of stress, everybody turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the most blessed wisdoms of any calamity. And in fact, in the Quran, there are at least a dozen verses, no exaggeration, at least a dozen verses in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that at times of stress, mankind remembers me. When they're about to drown in the ocean, they think of me. When some calamity comes to them, they call upon me. When they're in pain or anguish, Allah says, they make dua to me, standing, sitting, and lying down. Now, listen to this carefully. In the whole Quran, Allah never criticizes rediscovering faith at times of calamity. Allah never criticizes turning to Him when a person is in distress. Where is the criticism? The criticism comes after the distress is lifted, after Allah saves you, after all of this is over, then you forget and you worship other than Allah. That is the criticism. To become religious at times of stress, this is the essence of Iman. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, this is what the Muslim and Mu'min does. At times of stress, the Prophet ﷺ would increase salah, would pray longer tahajjud, would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is exactly what you do when the situation gets tough. Don't feel guilty that you are becoming more religious because of stress. Feel guilty only if after it is over, you neglect and forget and go back to your ways. You need to raise the bar during times of stress. Turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Increase your salah and your dua. And once the stress is over, and if Allah blesses you to live after that, then don't forget the blessing Allah has given you. And thank Allah for that blessing. The censure in the Quran, the reprobation that comes in the Quran, it is for those who remember Allah at times of stress and then forget everything after it is over. So keep this point in mind. In fact, the Quran reminds us that during times of stress and fitna, we should turn to Allah. And by turning to Allah, this is one of the main ways of protecting us. Allah says in the Quran, فَلَوْلَا إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا تَضَرَّعُوا. Why didn't they beg us in dua when the punishment came down? Allah is asking a rhetorical question. Why didn't they turn to me? Why didn't they make dua to me when the punishment came down? Rather, their hearts became hard and they neglected. Allah did not criticize them except for not making dua. The criticism was for not being religious at times of fitna. In fact, dear Muslims, the very purpose of being tested and tried is so that we turn back to Allah before it is too late. The very purpose of a fitna is that Allah Azza wa Jal is testing us with a small tragedy to protect us from the largest tragedy, which is the fire of hell. Allah is giving us a small amount of pain so that we wake up and protect ourselves from the ultimate pain. And Allah mentions this in the Quran, that Allah Azza wa Jal says, that مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ إِن شَكَرْتُمْ وَآمَنْتُمْ. What will Allah gain by punishing you? What will Allah gain by sending a punishment down if you truly believe in Allah and you are thankful to Allah? Allah Azza wa Jal does not gain any sadistic pleasure by seeing His servants in pain. That's not the wisdom. The wisdom is we turn to Allah before it is too late. And so the greatest moral and the greatest wisdom from this tragedy around us, the purpose of it is so that we rekindle our relationship with Allah. We rediscover the sweetness of Iman. We turn to Allah in salah and in dua and in tahajjud and in sadaqah. And in that indeed will be our salvation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless me and you with and through the Quran. And may He make us of those who His verses they understand and who seek His halal and haram throughout our lifespan. I ask Allah's forgiveness. You as well ask, for He is the Ghafoor, the Rahman.